Giving up control is another barrier. We want to cling to what we see, touch, and control, where the Spirit guides us to give up control. We have these mental maps within us that we integrate into our being, basically integrated basic assumptions are what they are, and it impedes our self-awareness. Sometimes it's not taking the time to discern, because we're certain we know how things work, we know ourselves, we know how we are with others, we have the certainty, and because of that, we may have this intentional blindness, it's called. These things are difficult to change. But we as ministers, basically, our job is to do our own work first before calling others to do theirs. And the process is continuous. We never arrive. Sorry to break the news to you. We never arrive. The process is continuous. Sometimes it's daily, at other times it's hourly. We don't arrive. But our job is to be in process. Some other barriers before we go to this slide. Easily distracted sometimes. We are easily distracted. People are only aware of what they pay attention to. And so if we don't pay attention to some of the things that maybe the Spirit is kind of nudging us to take care of those things, then we don't have to worry about it because we don't see it. Also, intentional blindness has to do with groupthink. In the Bowen system, there is groupthink, that's the fusion. When a group minimizes conflict and makes decisions without critically testing, without analyzing, and without evaluating, that's groupthink. That's fusion of Bowen system. Those are some barriers. Another barrier is our limited view of our complexity. We are complex creations. And there's a lot that happens on the inside of us. The scriptures that I'm going to quote to you from Romans 12, 1 through 2, the scripture says, I urge you therefore, my brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, pleasing to God, which is your spiritual service. And do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is the will of God, the good, the pleasing, and the mature will of God. That has to do with giving up control, submission to God, not being conformed to the things of the world, not being pulled in to the system not being fused with the system, carried along by the system, so that you give up yourself to the system, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Transformed. I urge you, by the mercies of God, my sisters and brothers, to present your body. That is submission. To be transformed. That is your mind. That is your emotions. That is your behavior. To be transformed. Little bit different than Bowen theory. There is a book called Influencer, The New Science of Leading Change by Grini et al. I have the book on the table there. And the author names 6 sources in 3 categories that can either inhibit the desire for wholeness or can help wholeness. It is personal motivation, personal ability, social motivation, social ability, structural motivation, structural ability. I think we've gone through these barriers, so I'm just going to scroll through this. There is an article by Alan Dutchman Carter called Change or Die, and he says change happens mostly by speaking to people's feelings. It helps others see solutions in ways that influence emotions and not just thought. So here again is separating the thinking and the feeling. So we can have both intelligences available to us. Joy is a more powerful motivator than fear. Framing or mental structures shape the way people see the world. Concepts have to fit within what is already a part of the cognitive unconscious. Now, I want to stop there for a moment and ask if there are any comments or questions. No comments or questions? Okay.
I'm wondering if joy is more powerful motivator than fear, if that depends on how high you are up on your needs. Like if you're lower on Maslow's pyramid of basic needs, fear of food to eat or something becomes a high motivator. Joy is a little you're higher up in your need progression to where joy can become a factor. Is that true?
You know what I was thinking about with this? Thank you very much for bringing that up. When I think of joy as being a more powerful motivator than fear, I think of the work that we do as chaplains in this hospital. And I think of the times when we go into a patient's room. You've done this yourself. You've gone into a patient's room who's dealing with something very, very difficult. And you engage that person, and in the midst of the conversation, there is a spark of hope which brings joy. And that joy causes that person to grasp hold to something that causes them to want to change. This is what I think of when I think of joy is a more powerful motivator than fear. The old school was to take the scriptures and to beat people up with them and to make them feel guilty. That motivates no one to change. But we realize that there is joy in serving God. There is actual hope in serving God. We have a good time in serving God.